The Writers Guild of America and Hollywood studios have reached a tentative deal to end that months-long strike. The agreement was announced to the 11,000 members of the union yesterday, with leaders calling it exceptional.
The writers have been on strike since May 2nd, making it the second longest strike in the union's history. Members will now be called on to vote on whether to ratify that contract, with the WGA saying members could be authorized to return to work as soon as tomorrow, even before ratification.
So here with us tonight via Zoom is Margo Sawaya. She's assistant professor of film studies at Michigan State, also a writer and director. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We are glad to have you. So we've been waiting a while to see any kind of movement as far as this is concerned. The WGA is still on strike tonight, but this tentative agreement means that they are not picketing. How big of a deal would you say that this is?
This is a huge deal. I mean, we've been on strike now for almost 5 months, and this is the first time that the Writers Guild of America and the Screen Actors Guild have, in solidarity, been on strike together since the 1960s. So the fact that we're actually having movement on a tentative new deal is a huge, huge step in the right direction.
And the writers, by all accounts, seem to be celebrating. They seem satisfied with this tentative deal. What can you tell us about it? What were the big wins for the Writers Guild?
The wins are that we're actually seeing movement with understanding how AI, artificial intelligence like ChatGPT, might influence the screenwriting industry at large, and understanding that it's more than just art versus commerce, but understanding how we can move forward in this new direction with artificial intelligence. And the fact that there will be a potential new deal on the table in 3 years from now is actually good for us, because we'll have a better understanding of how artificial intelligence like ChatGPT influences the industry by that time.
Another major point brought up by the Guild, in addition to that ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, is streaming and how that is now affecting the way those actors are able to make money. We've seen some of them talk about those small checks that they're getting. Yeah. How do you feel that we will see movement moving forward as far as that's concerned?
With streaming specifically?
Yes.
It's hard to gauge what's going to happen with streaming because that industry changes so quickly. We don't yet know the full capacity of the artificial intelligence, which is why it's so important that we will potentially have a new reopening of this deal in 3 years.
So as you mentioned, Margo, huge deal that the Writers Guild and the Actors Guild have been on strike at the same time. The Actors Guild remains on strike. Do you take this sign of the tentative deal with the writers as optimism to believe a deal may be coming for the actors?
Yeah, I think it's a great sign. And honestly, I don't know if we would have this tentative deal on the table without the support of the Screen Actors Guild. I think now that we have reached a fair agreement, it's a really good sign that the Screen Actors Guild agreement will be on the table in the near future, because production on a lot of TV shows and films can't continue until we have a deal for them as well.
Yeah, and they have not budged, really halting a lot of production. What do you think it says that they stood to what they were wanting to see and didn't budge on that at all?
I think it's important to realize that this is affecting the industry in a really long-term way, and it's impacting people's livelihood, not just how we perceive and understand filmmaking and television, but how we understand humanity and how we represent humanity in the stories that we tell. So it's a great step in the right direction for that.
You know, I'm curious, as we just mentioned, the actors' strike continues. We saw a lot of pushback in recent weeks when certain talk shows announced that they would be coming back on despite the strike continuing. Do you think we might see a similar kind of backlash if, let's say, some of the late night shows come back, which they are expected to very soon, but if actors are still on strike, how do you think that will go over?
Well, I think it's interesting because, I mean, like you mentioned, Drew Barrymore's show tried to come back, and then with the backlash of the writer's strike, she pulled back and decided, I'm not going to move forward with this because it's not in solidarity with the writers. That was a huge moment because it really showed how important the writers are to bringing production back to fruition. And I do think that talk shows and late night television will be the first things to come back because we don't need as many SAG actors on those productions. But that's only one category of a huge industry. And I don't think that we will be satisfied with just talk shows and late night television. I think that very soon we will have a deal on the table for SAG as well.
Lastly, I want to ask you, as a writer and director yourself, you know how much work goes into what you create. How do you feel about seeing what we are now seeing play out right now? And also just speak to the importance of being able to be supported to carry out that vision and that work.
I think, well, I just worked on a television show and left Hollywood to be a professor of film studies at Michigan State. So it really did impact me directly. And I've been very concerned for the state of the livelihood for writers and actors, but also, like I said earlier, the representation of humanity at large. Because if there is not something in the deal to protect our written word over the ability of artificial intelligence to replicate that, then we will lose humanity and understanding humanity as we know it. So it really protects the storytelling aspect of the entertainment industry.
We could all get behind that. Margo Sawaya, Assistant Professor of Film Studies at MSU. Thanks so much for your time today, Margo.
Thank you so much.